We are young, but the world is burning. Where do you feel it? I feel it here, in my lower chest. I see it in the rising sea levels, rising temperatures and rising apathy. It's in the cold eyes of border patrols, in the boats left to sink in the Mediterranean, my Mediterranean. It whispers through the chants of far-right rallies. It hides in the bystanders who look away and speaks loudest through media that turns the most vulnerable into enemies. I hear it in the screams of the people in Gaza. It trumpets through the insanity of the global military complex. It marches through the rhythms of police batons, beating those who speak out. It echoes in boardrooms filled with men, relentlessly trying to control bodies and exploit land. It stings in your uncle's racist comment. It poses in the algorithm that surveil and divide us, fueled by greedy billionaires. It is me. I am it. It gave me all the privileges I carry but never earned. It beats relentlessly, a system that measures life only by growth, profit, and power. Crisis after crisis, we became young adults, but we also stopped dreaming. We stopped imagining alternatives. Close your eyes now. Look ahead at our future. Do you also feel paralyzed? Scared? What should we do?
I moved to Berlin, like many do, searching for a home for my wandering soul. They told me it's a city that resists, a city of counterculture, constantly evolving, challenging, questioning. A city where life and hope grew out of bricks and concrete. A city scarred by its past, but forever tied to live in memory of it. United, yet still divided. But most of all, alive. Relentless. Chaotic. I was hoping to find people who share my anger, but also people who could give me hope. I wanted to become politically more active, I guess. But the question was, how? For me, this is where film came into the picture. For the past few years, it has been my main way of expression. I love telling stories, and thought that maybe movies could be a cool way to help give others a voice. But at times, that also didn't feel right. Am I just using other people's stories? Am I just trying to brush off my guilt? Am I appropriating other people's struggles?
What is my story?
This is my story. Another white man in film? Another white man in film? This is my story.
Does making films actually lead to any change? I don't know. I really don't. But that's exactly why I love making documentaries. Most of all, it taught me to be a better listener. It showed me the power of asking questions, not to find answers, but just to find more questions. The main one I will try to explore in this film is how documentaries can be tools for activism and change. But wait, let me take you a few steps back before. At first, I wanted to make a film about different activism strategies in Berlin. You know, find a cool and edgy group of activists and help tell their story. But then I realized I first needed to give space to my worries and doubts about privilege and positionality and all of that, and also in general reflect more on the intersections between film and activism. So I decided to try to learn more from others before doing things myself. I started by talking with those who probably have faced my same doubts and fears.
Questa ossessione che abbiamo nel sapere se le cose sono reali, vere o se sono messe in scena. E alla fine questa è un po' anche la domanda.
Hallo!
The role of the artist is to make the revolution irresistible.
I wanted to know if I'm the only one feeling lost. I wanted to ask them how they do it. How it is for them to be young in a world that's burning. I'll let you know what they say. For now, I'll just keep writing.
Thank
What are
you.
you doing? Also serious?
I'm making a documentary about how documentaries are used in Berlin for like activism.
Okay.
And like, yeah.
We can talk, yeah?
Yeah, happily.
Yeah, man. Respect.
Okay. Ciao, ciao.
Enjoy your day.
Have a good day.
Ciao.
It slides this way.
Yeah.
Well, hello. Welcome to the interview.
People forget their umbrellas all the time. Should I tell you my name?
Yeah. They don't know. I know your name, they don't.
So my name is Milad. I'm Syrian. I've been living in Berlin since 5 years now.
Genau, ich bin Joanna Georgi, ich komme aus Marburg.
So my name is Roman. I was born in Berlin and grew up like in the east and south of Germany.
So my name is Otto. I have birthday on the 13/12, ACAB.
How does it feel to be on the other side of the camera?
A pain in the ass, but
Pain in the ass, we love it.
Unangenehm.
Ja, kenne ich.
Ja, ich bin
auch.
auf jeden Fall lieber hinter der Kamera.
Ja.
I'm trying not to do the mistakes that usually ask you not to do.
basically I'm a filmmaker, director, producer, and also festival organizer.
So basically I could call myself a video journalist.
Video journalist,
Ja.
okay.
Und ich bin über meine politische Arbeit dann zum Film gekommen und habe für die Politgruppe, bei der ich gearbeitet habe, Demonstrationsvideos gedreht. Habe dann angefangen, an der Filmarche, einer selbstverwalteten Filmhochschule zu studieren.
I went to the art school like any Bohemian boy who wanted to go to art school. I studied sculpture and I was just doing mostly garnish stuff for churches, houses, stuff like this. With the revolution I started to shift more and more in the political direction.
Würdest du sagen, dass du irgendwie Aktivistin bist oder ein politischer, engagierter Mensch?
Ja, also ich glaube, ich würde sagen, ich bin Kommunistin.
Ich kann mir fast vorstellen, was das ist.
Es ist eine Miniaturausgabe des Kommunistischen Manifests.
Ah, süß.
Ja. Und ich bin in Bewegungen aktiv. Man geht ja immer so Stufen durch, über die man sich so politisiert. ich habe tatsächlich angefangen in der Schulzeit bei Greenpeace, also sehr Atomkraft ist schlecht und wir müssen die Umwelt schützen. Ich komme vom Dorf. Genau, deswegen, ich glaube, das war so eine Anxiety, die ich hatte, so was ist, wenn ich aufwachse und die Welt existiert nicht mehr.
By definition, I am an activist, like I'm doing search and rescue activities since a few years now. Actually, next week I will join my 7th rotation on a search and rescue ship. So yeah, I would consider myself as an activist. Also regarding like my video collective where I'm engaged, Left Vision. I grew up in a city in South Germany, and there we had like a lot of fascist rallies. So when I was 16, I got more aware about that and joined like local political groups, Antifa groups.
Also, when I was 18, I went also to Mexico, to Chiapas, to see how it was possible that the Zapatistas like made a revolution, and even after 25 years, even today, after 30 years, like they are still like resisting against the state.
There were no one moment starting it, because I mean I have cameras since 2009, and I started. One of my first projects, I was doing it in this, there were tanks houses. People were like coming from east, living around the city in like high poverty situation. Then when the revolution in Syria started, I started using the camera more and more, and then I was going in the direction of documenting and working as a journalist and photojournalist. I mean, it's the history. We are the modern historian people who write the history.
Oh, history, history, my dear history. If our zeitgeist could talk, it would probably speak of times of fear, uncertainty, and polarization, of pillars and institutions crumbling. Some seek refuge in nostalgia and historical revisionism. Others try to fight back, while most simply stand by and watch.
Die Zeit läuft weiter, doch die Narben bleiben. Meine Generation auf Warteschleife wird gern entspannen, doch ich weiß, es kommen harte Zeiten. Und wenn ich Zeit Selbstbetrug nicht weiter jeden Tag zu fighten. Ich würd gern wieder Positives schreiben, doch nachts wach ich auf von Träumen in den Nazi-Schweine. Mich und meine Leute niederknüppeln und die Macht ergreifen. Träum von Kugeln in ihrem Kopf aus glatt polierten 6 Eisen. Fass ist voll, die Lunte brennt. Weiße Cops in weißem Hemd. Lass sie immer wissen, wo der Haken hängt. Nimm die Beine in die Hand, mein Junge, renn. Fass ist voll, die Lunte brennt. Weiße Cops in weißem Hemd. Lass sie immer wissen, wo der Haken hängt. Nimm die Beine in die Hand, mein Junge, renn.
Wie geht es dir eigentlich, wenn du irgendwie so rausguckst und irgendwie, keine Ahnung, die Zeitung liest, über Genozid in Gaza liest oder Climate Change und all diese Themen, die...
Schlecht? Ja. Also ich hatte, glaube ich, in den letzten Jahren auch mit FreundInnen oder GenossInnen so Situationen, wo wir geweint haben, weil politisch es einfach ein Desaster ist. Und ich glaube, das Wichtige ist, dass man in diesem Schmerz nicht alleine ist. Und ich glaube, das ist nicht so ein entfremdeter Weltschmerz, sondern es ist einfach die Realität zu sehen, wie sie ist. Und die Realität, wie sie ist gerade einfach komplett brutal und entfesselter Kapitalismus und Ausbeutung, Imperialismus. Aufgebaut auf einem racial, sexist System, was nicht zulässt, dass wir ein würdiges Leben auf dieser Welt führen.
Pretty fucking dreadful, isn't it? But do you think we have any agency in this? Can we change things? Can I change things? I'm just a man with a movie camera after all.
The role of the artist is to make the revolution irresistible. Ja, 100%.
Tone cani Bambara.
Big quote.
Big quote from Bambara.
Also,
Ja.
ja. Keine Ahnung, wir haben das bei unserem Film auch versucht. Also wir waren halt so, wir wollen halt nicht Black Bloc, Antifa, unidentifizierbare Menschen, mit denen man sich nicht identifizieren kann, sondern wir wollen Leute, die sind cool, die sind offen, die sind nett, mit denen kann man sich identifizieren. Ich mag den Spruch übrigens voll gerne.
Ach, okay, gut. Ja.
Ja. Ich finde das sehr wichtig.
Ja.
Und da steckt auch Spaß drin.
Ja.
Also ich finde so dieses Irresistible machen ist halt absolut so, das ist nicht so trocken didaktisch, sondern...
Ja.
I don't believe that there's the role of the artist.
Okay.
I believe there's artists who can choose whatever they want.
Yeah.
Who cares if you're an artist or not?
Okay.
You should be political in any case.
Okay.
In what you do and how you behave. I mean, you are still involved in this society, and even if you go to the supermarket and if you buy the mango from Costa Rica, I don't know, or if you buy the orange from Brandenburg, that they don't have the Apfel from Brandenburg, you know, it's just also a political choice. For me, it's like everybody should have a role to make this world a bit better.
Das Gefühl, was ich auch habe, vor allem mit so Kunst, ist irgendwie, also wenn ich nicht das mache, was mache ich mit alle irgendwie Gefühle und Gedanken?
Voll.
Also wo sollen sie hin?
Es gibt für mich auch keine andere Möglichkeit, als politische Kunst zu machen.
Also das muss ja irgendwo,
ja.
Sonst bleibt das alles da drin und dann habe ich das Gefühl, dass ich...
Dann wirst du halt auch depressiv.
Ja,
also,
genau, von
ja,
drin mich
voll.
irgendwie so rot und auf ist.
Voll und dich so von dir selber entfremdest, glaube ich.
Ja,
also so,
ja.
Ja. Ich glaube, dass Kunst in der heutigen Gesellschaft super entfremdet stattfindet. Also weil man als Künstlerin immer diesen ökonomischen Sachen unterworfen ist und den ökonomischen Prämissen, die dahinter stehen. Kunst politisch sein muss. Ich glaube aber, da würden mir viele widersprechen, aber ich glaube, es ist für mich die einzige Kunstform, die ich im Moment produzieren kann. Und ich weiß auch nicht, ob ich in einer nicht kapitalistischen Gesellschaft überhaupt Kunst machen würde. Wahrscheinlich nicht. Wahrscheinlich würde ich einen ganz normalen Job haben. Und, man hat so viel Verantwortung, wenn man Künstlerin ist, weil man hat eine Rolle in der Gesellschaft, die es in der kapitalistischen Gesellschaft eigentlich nicht geben sollte.
And so I'm kind of wondering why you chose specifically this medium, like film and documentary.
For me, it was at one moment also I took more like the filmmaking tool and the documentary tool like as a form, let's say, of keeping but combining the art and the activism, if you want, through the camera.
Und ich möchte auch nichts anderes machen. Also ich glaube, es hat so angefangen und jetzt, ich werde auch immer wieder gefragt, warum mache ich keinen fiktionalen Film oder so. Und ich glaube, ich möchte nicht detached von der Realität in einem Studio sitzen oder und Sachen inszenieren, genau. Sondern ich glaube, es gibt so viel, was existiert und was nicht erzählt wird.
I mean, I think always I was not very good by writing or by speaking, and at one moment I realized that maybe filming is the best way to express myself, like through image and sound.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to Otto. I'm also kind of insecure about my writing, and image has always been the most natural way to express myself. You know, to document my life, to show love. During our conversations, I asked them to tell me a bit about their films, why they did it, what they felt while they were doing it. I remember seeing Joanna's film at the cinema back in June and really thinking, wow, this is the type of project I want to be working on and kind of the reason why I came to Berlin.
Willst du mir jetzt ein bisschen von Niemals allein immer zusammen erzählen?
Die Idee ist entstanden nach der Pandemie, also quasi so in dem letzten Jahr der Pandemie. In einer Zeit, wo der Filmmarkt in Deutschland ziemlich down war, wo Bewegungen aber auch ziemlich inaktiv waren und wo wir, glaube ich, alle realisiert haben, dieser also ja, wir waren, glaube ich, uns ging es eigentlich so gut. Ich weiß nicht, wie es dir in der Zeit ging, aber es war nicht so die beste Zeit.
Es sah alles nicht so gut aus.
Nee, genau. Und ich war in der Zeit an der Filmarche und wir haben sehr, sehr viel in unserer Klasse darüber geredet. Also in der Filmarche ist es so, dass man sich selber organisiert. Bei mir hat sich immer mehr rauskristallisiert, dass die Filme, die ich machen will oder die Leute, mit denen ich auch zu tun habe und mit denen ich aktiv bin, dass die nicht auftauchen im Film in Deutschland. Es gibt eben keinen aktivistischen Film, wo klar ist, dass das 5 Marxistinnen sind, die antikapitalistisch sind. Und diese Leute existieren aber die ganze Zeit und werden aber ignoriert. Genau, und dann kam quasi die Idee auf, okay, ich will einen Film über die Leute machen, mit denen ich aktiv bin und irgendwie so die Leute, die wirklich was zu sagen haben und die gute Politik machen und die jung sind, auf der Leinwand sehen. Wir hatten alle keine Zeit und kein Geld.
Perfekt für den Film.
Ja, voll. Deswegen war es sehr anstrengend für uns als Team, das so durchzuziehen über 3 Jahre. Und ich glaube, alle im Kernteam hatten irgendwann depressive Phasen, deswegen war ich einfach kurz vor Burnout. Also genau, wir haben sehr viel Arbeit reingesteckt, aber es hat halt dazu geführt, dass wir die Arbeit, die man halt normalerweise unter der Woche macht, in einer 40-Stunden-Woche, haben wir halt am Wochenende in Urlauben, morgens vor der Arbeit und so. Also es war halt
eingequetscht.
Insane, ja.
Crazy how much work it is to make a film, right? But yeah, anyways, let's continue to the others. So both Otto and Roman made documentaries around the European border crisis. And growing up in Italy around 2015, 2016, reading about the migrant crisis in the Mediterranean was really one of the first topics that kind of like woke up my political consciousness. And it was just crazy for me to start to understand that just a few kilometers away from where my family and I were peacefully swimming, there were literally people left to drown. I started asking myself how it could be that the Mediterranean, which for me had always been a sort of reminder of freedom, for others was a wall. And I guess with time I understood that that wall was not made up of natural elements like water. It was a political wall. You know, nature makes bridges, not walls.
By Photos Europe, I mean that the nations which are consistent as the European Union, building all their wealth and their income by exploitation of like other parts of the world, like European nations and countries sell weapons, they exploit like LNG right now in the African continent or in Asia. So people are trying to escape from that and they try to reach Europe, but Europe is like, you're not coming in. So they are building like walls, they are building like a fortress. Political struggles in Europe, maybe this is the one where the most vulnerable people exist. That's the reason I choose this topic.
The last film that I did, it's called Me Entiendes, Do You Get Me? And it's about a young Moroccan boy. I met him in Melilla, that is a Spanish enclave in Morocco, and there is it's also a route, migration route from Morocco basically, and not only. And with one of these guys I kept the contact and I met him 8 years later, and I made like the first film, the first short was about trying to get to Spain, and the second short was once arrived in Spain, what happened next.
The movie I made was Rise Above, gegen das Ertrinken, against the drowning, and in this movie I covered like the actual last mission of a smaller search and rescue vessel, the Rise Above from Mission Lifeline, and I did this movie just to make people understand how search and rescue operation works. And I saw a lot of reportages about produced by television channels, and I was not really happy with them because I felt like they don't really get the point. From my point where I was working from, I had different accesses to the crew, and it was like more
intimate.
More intimate, like they would answer me different questions which they maybe wouldn't have answered to a random journalist.
Once we arrived there, I spent, like we did the first trip just of 2 weeks, I think. And when I came back, I spent basically 3 months there in one piece. And I spent the whole time with him. And nothing, I was of course like telling him what it's the aim, what's the idea, and showing this and that. But of course, like in this period of his life was also kind of monotonous. So I was also like searching for a story, or better to say, for a development of a possible character. I had really many roles and different roles with him, like from a friend to older brother to a social worker to director to like there was always like a different hat that I had to put on, like depending on the situation that I was with him.
In this movie, my focus is more on the crew members than on the guests. We didn't had so much time with the guests on board, and when we did, we were like super busy. So there was basically not a lot of time to actually engage with people and schedule interviews.
Yeah. And you don't want to just arrive with your camera out of nowhere.
Exactly. So of course I have pictures of people in my movie where I filmed them, like, but in a very respectful way, I think, to not catch them to the like lens of misery and stuff, but to portray them as people who are on the ship now.
And there's a scene where you like gave a camera to Mohammed and then he filmed a bit. And so I love that. And so I was just wondering what were your creative thoughts or intentions by giving him a camera?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, like that he can also empower himself by he being the one who is telling the story and his life, and not that we are, of course. I made him a present because we won a small prize, money prize, and I bought like a hard drive, a camera, and like all the small equipment to give to him as a present to also kind of, you have it, you know, like would be great. Yeah, exactly. Play with it, make whatever you want. This image that he shot still on this camera are super. Yeah, like it's a crazy moment in his life because I mean it was a clear moment that he was under a psychosis and not feeling good, and he somehow deep inside himself he felt like to leave this auto message, this video message to himself, because he's speaking to himself through a small camera where he sees himself mirrored too, and he's trying to empower himself and remember to himself like what kind of person he is.
Wow, what powerful objects cameras can be. They're a tool of expression, a way to document, to interrogate. I think a camera is not just a witness of history, it really is an active participant. You know, filming is sort of an act of resistance against the passing of time, against the risk of forgetting. How does our personal agency change when we're holding a camera?
The idea of the recording was the story of the camera itself. We couldn't catch a story, one story, to do it like for 2 hours. We couldn't catch one hero of like one character. And at the end, the decision was that the main character is the camera itself. It's as an eye going around and watching. That's why the camera always go around, meet people. We were in the area where there were no internet, no water, no electricity, nothing for like a really long time. And I think talking to the camera was our way to express like we can actually break this wall, break this siege, and actually talk to the people who's like outside. We had lots of cameras.
Lots of cameras.
Yeah. I mean, from the beginning, I mean, the movie started with the scene for a friend of us, and he was killed in this scene. Like that was the last scene. He gave the camera, someone took the camera, he started. Then this guy left. Then I came, I took the camera. As I said, it was not about who's holding the camera and filming. It's about the camera itself. It was not one camera. It was the idea that the camera exist in that place, in that time, in one of the hardest time in the history of Syria. We lost at least 2 hard disks. We lost 6 cameras almost in this. Lots of equipments. A friend of us was kidnapped in the north, one of the group by ISIS. We had to lock all the footage. I had to go in the tunnel to another city, and then they had to send it, and then Too Hard was lost on the way, because it was super dangerous for anyone to hold that amount of footage with him. Yeah, it's very dangerous for us, for everyone, for everyone in this footage, for everyone who hold it. You can literally and seriously get killed for such footage. It's old mentality. When you do bad stuff, you don't want people to come in. I mean, Israel don't want journalists to come in Gaza, right? Nobody want. If you are stealing someone's house, you don't want camera to film you, right? If you are killing someone, you don't want camera around.
Evidence.
Yeah. So technically, literally, the regime know that what they're doing is wrong, you know?
I've written this voiceover too many times and constantly changed my mind on what I should say. I lived there for 3 years, but that's a story for another time. I also don't want to speak directly about the genocide or the occupation. I don't think this is the right context or that I'm the right person. But the pain, anger, and helplessness of witnessing a genocide unfold on our screens played such a crucial role in driving me to make this film. Leaving this out would simply feel dishonest.
Our voices will not be silenced, and we demand not just justice for Gaza, we demand accountability. Gaza! Gaza! Gaza!
Palestine is our Vietnam. Seeing the reaction of the West exposed the complicity and hypocrisy of our institutions. It shattered our parents' promises. Like Greta, many in my generation once thought plastic straws were the problem. But the more we drew the lines between colonialism, capitalism, ethno-nationalism, and all the other isms, the more the monster took shape. We started seeing how all these systems need each other, which is why our fight needs to be united and intersectional.
Over the last year and a half, going to these solidarity protests helped me stay sane and feel less alone. There's a special sense of community and empowerment you feel when you're surrounded by people unapologetically screaming for justice.
What do you want? Justice! Why do you want it?
I kept filming, compulsively, instinctively. I wanted to give these screams and chants a longer life. Protect them against a state who criminalizes us and against the amnesia imposed by the media. The revolution will not be televised. Remember? Filming also became an impulsive defense against police violence, documenting what they tried to suppress with tear gas and batons. Okay, let's go back to our characters. I was curious to know why they all came to Berlin, because most of them were not from here. I was wondering if it was the same reasons that brought me to the city. You know, I came here looking for a community of people that sort of have my same values and ideas and also want to help being part of an alternative.
Why so many sort of like political artists come to Berlin? And it's a bit of a loop, of course, but like, why Berlin and why?
Loop, because there were so many here all the time, and there will always be so many here, and like the city is still relatively cheap.
Still, I then came also to Berlin because I also wanted to continue my political and activist kind of life, and I knew that in Berlin was still very active and militant.
And then I always liked these cities like Damascus or Beirut where people don't feel stranger in it, where like cosmopolitan, and Berlin, it's a big city, it's like, it's a crazy city, you can find everything here. I think sometimes it's too much. People exaggerate a bit, but still, I mean.
In Berlin, it's just another world that you have realities that you don't find really easily somewhere else, I think.
Ich glaube, das ist historisch gewachsen. Also ich glaube, Berlin hatte immer schon eine starke ArbeiterInnenbewegung, schon in den 20ern. Der Wedding war schon immer der rote Wedding. Genau, und ich glaube, dann war so die spezielle Situation von Ost und West. Also so Leute, die quasi nicht zum Militärdienst in Westdeutschland wollten, konnten nach Berlin gehen, genau. Und ich glaube, dadurch haben sich auch in Berlin so Strukturen weitergebildet, wo einfach so eine ArbeiterInnenbewegung oder eine Bewegung eine ArbeiterInnenbewegung einfach mehr Kontinuität hatte als in anderen Städten, wo die ziemlich radikal zerstört wurde in den letzten 100 Jahren. Und ich glaube, deswegen ist Berlin aber, glaube ich, auch so ein Anzugspunkt. Also ich weiß auch von Leuten aus anderen Ländern, die nach Berlin kommen, weil Berlin irgendwie so ein Beacon of Hope, man so das Gefühl hat,
da ist noch was.
Da ist noch was. Ja. Und das, was noch ist aber trotzdem constantly unter Beschuss. Also die Palästina-Bewegung wird die ganze Zeit zusammengeprügelt. Linke Orte werden die ganze Zeit geschlossen. Die Kulturkürzungen, die gerade stattfinden, richten sich vor allem gegen migrantische, queere und linke Spaces. So. Genau, und ich glaube, deswegen ist es auch unsere Verantwortung, wenn wir hierher kommen, weil wir das irgendwie suchen, das auch zu verteidigen.
I mean, Berlin changed a lot, and it's definitely another feel. I mean, a lot of places where I was feeling welcomed or home are not anymore existing. So, in general, also at the moment, like the political situation in Germany and in Berlin, especially also for the artists and freedom of speech, and the new laws that they are trying to put, and the atmosphere in general that you can. Like that you're breathing here is just heavy as shit.
I'm also finding it a bit difficult. You know, at times it's a very big, lonely and a bit isolating city. And it's always so fucking cold. Well, except today, I guess, but most of the time. But yeah, there's also those days when the writings on the walls and the street art and the stickers and the political posters everywhere kind of make me feel seen. They make me feel like I'm a part of something bigger. And yeah, I guess I really like the feeling of being in a city where shit happens, where things are moving. I also love the omnipresence of the past in the city. You know, the remains of the walls, even if this is not the real wall, but the remains of the walls act not only as a memorial, but also as a sort of constant warning. A reminder of how humans can go when they're fueled by hate.
Sagen, Amazon raus aus Berlin.
Mit euch hier zusammengekommen, um ein klares Zeichen gegen den Überkonsum zu setzen. Ein Phänomen, das gerade an Tagen wie heute, am sogenannten Black Friday, seinen erschreckenden Höhepunkt erreicht. Was kostet es uns, in einer Gesellschaft zu leben, die einen Genozid im Kongo toleriert, damit wir alle 2 Jahre ein neues iPhone in den Händen halten können? Jeder Euro, den wir bei Unternehmen ausgeben, die sich zum Beispiel an Apartheidssystemen oder an Genoziden bereichern, ist eine Unterstützung von Enteignung und Unterdrückung. Wir machen ihn anstatt eines Tages des Konsums zu einem Tag des Widerstands. Ein Tag, an dem wir sagen Nein zu der Gier von Konzernen und Nein zur Apartheid, Nein zu kolonialer Ausbeutung und Ja zu Solidarität und zu Gerechtigkeit. Ja zu einer Welt, in der Menschen über Profite stehen.
Ich stehe hinter der Masse her, bin allein. Sehe vor mir die Falle, doch tritt hinein. Weiße Fäden der Spinnen wickeln mich ein. Versuch das Netz zu durchdringen, doch bin zu klein. Ich such verzweifelt Komplizen, doch find hier keinen. Könnte ich jetzt noch was fühlen, dann würd ich schreien. Wir warten alle in Ketten auf den Zerfall. Let's fuck up the system 1, 3, 2. Ey, ey, wir sind alle in der Falle. Alle für einen, einer für alle. Wir sind alle in der Falle. Reiße noch kurz ab, bevor ich falle. Wir sind alle in der Falle. Alle für einen, einer für alle. Wir sind alle in der Falle. Reiße noch kurz ab, bevor ich falle.
While I was at that anti-Amazon protest, I had a feeling I often have. On the one hand, I felt outraged by the stories of those Amazon workers. I saw my values reconfirmed and was, I guess, inspired by their spirit of resilience. But on the other hand, I also felt a bit out of place. You know, I come from a rich family, I'm white, and I will likely never feel on my own skin the extent of these oppressive systems. Am I really in a position to try to help their stories? Is my attempt to give them voice in some way patronizing? At the same time, I also think that privilege can be used as a tool to empower others, to stand in solidarity with them. You know, don't we need all the pair of hands that we can find? How do you go about dealing with your privilege? Do you ignore it? Are you ashamed of it? Or do you use it?
You know, we're both white men, and I think in the world we live in, I often feel sort of like, wow, this world was made for and by people like us, white men. And also often sort of like telling stories about people that are like less privileged than you. And so I was just wondering personally how you deal with this.
You as a white man to go to another country to shoot another person that doesn't have the privilege or that you are not coming from them, it's also problematic. But at the same time, people that doesn't come from the same bubble, doing a film about a bubble can exactly also be very good to have a bit of more distance and another point of view.
Try not to think too much about it, because then you get a bit crazy, and I think like you can talk a lot about privilege, but in the end it should matter what you actually portray, and I think it's more important. Instead of making yourself crazy with thinking, am I entitled to do this or that, you should focus on how to change narratives and how to give people like a platform. The work I'm doing, yeah, well, I don't know if it doesn't feel so privileged. Like if I would use my time to do an actual job, I would have less worries, especially about money, because let's be honest, filmmaking is not something you do for money, you do because you care about something.
Frauen arbeiten eher im Dokumentarfilm als im fiktionalen Film, was damit zu tun hat, dass es eine Pay Gap gibt. Ja. Also so im Dokumentarfilm wirst du weniger bezahlt und irgendwie gibt es dadurch weniger Männer, die Dokumentarfilm machen, sondern die direkt ins Fiktionale gehen. Und es wird ja auch gesagt, im Dokumentarfilm arbeitet das Team kleiner, man hat nicht so viel Verantwortung. Das heißt, es ist auch eher so der Frauenberuf, während der, genau.
Like, you don't think it's problematic if someone is trying to tell a story about someone else that maybe they're not from there?
It's about what this person is telling, not about who is this person. We say mostly, if you can do it well, do it. But if you come and tell stupid stuff, like, I mean, this Orientalist videos about Syria, like, Syria, they have camels. Yeah, we have camels. Indeed, I never saw a camel in my life, but yeah. So, you know, it's about what you tell. If people come and tell like really good stories, I mean, really good movies was told also from different people from all around the world.
Es gibt Leute, die dann sagen, nein, das geht auf keinen Fall, es darf nur eine Person aus der Community selber machen. Das Problem ist aber, es gibt häufig nicht die Leute aus der Community, weil eben der Markt so strukturiert ist, dass diese Leute ausgeschlossen werden.
Everybody who wants to tell a story and who wants to cover like injustice or show alternatives for a better life is entitled to do so, because otherwise we are just not able as a lefty-minded people maybe to act anymore. If we just play the you are this, you are that, you are not entitled to do so.
Solange die Person sich bewusst ist über ihren Standpunkt und über die Unterschiede und über die Machthierarchien und die kommuniziert mit den Leuten und ehrlich ist und die Leute auch wissen, woran sie sind, und es ein Film ist, der dazu beiträgt, dass die ökonomische Situation angegriffen wird und sich quasi an die Seite der Leute stellt, die da porträtiert werden, finde ich es komplett in Ordnung, wenn eine weiße Person einen Film macht über Menschen, mit denen sie eigentlich nichts zu tun hat. Natürlich braucht man dann mehr Recherche, mehr Einarbeitungszeit, aber das ist eben quasi, das ist ein anderer Schuh als dieses, nur eine Person darf darüber reden, wenn sie weiß, was es ist.
Das freut mich jetzt zu hören. Weil das fühle ich sehr stark. Und, ja.
Also man hat vielleicht eine andere Gewichtung dahinter und eine andere Responsibility, sich da einzuarbeiten.
Talking to them did make me feel better about my position as a filmmaker. And I kind of realized that it's not that important the family I was born into. And what really matters is the stories I'm telling and the message my movies communicate and the relationships I build with the people I'm working with. But yeah, regardless of who the filmmaker is, documentaries do often navigate quite blurry ethical lines. You know, there's issues around consent and privacy and the ever-present power dynamic between the filmmaker and the subjects. And this is exactly why I wanted to interview filmmakers, to kind of make them feel how it is to be on the other side of the camera, kind of what I'm doing right now. And yeah, it can be quite uncomfortable at times. The first level is taking care of themselves. You know, making films about social injustice can be mentally very burdening. You know, filmmakers get exposed to violence and trauma, and it is often hard to find a balance between empathizing with your subjects and keeping some emotional distance. For me personally, making this film was quite hard at times. You know, I had to deal with imposter syndrome and the pressure I put on myself, and just constantly having to face and feel these emotions around the world burning and fascism coming back and all of that. You know, it was hard at times. But I do still think it's better than detaching myself from those emotions and becoming numb. So yeah, I'm glad I did it.
Ich habe jetzt eine neue Klasse und wir haben in der Uni gerade sehr viel über das Thema geredet und wir haben alle dasselbe Problem. Und wir machen irgendwie so Scherze darüber, weil so jede Woche hat so eine andere eine Existential Crisis. Ja. Ich glaube aber, es gibt auch ein paar Bewegungen in der Filmwelt hinzu, wir holen uns einen therapeutischen Beistand, zum Beispiel für die ProtagonistInnen, oder wir holen Intimacy Coordinators für den Spielfilm, die so ein bisschen versuchen, darauf zu achten.
Wenn ich irgendwie diese Gespräche habe, denkt man oft irgendwie, okay, du hast den Film gemacht, wer hat es gesehen, für wen hat es was gebracht, welche Geschichten hat es hochgebracht. Aber ein bisschen ist es auch, also ohne das jetzt egoistisch zu formulieren, aber ein bisschen ist es auch, um irgendwie selber zu überleben und selber irgendwie...
Ja, und sich wirkmächtig zu fühlen. Ja. Also, dass man halt nicht so ohnmächtig und lethargisch ist, sondern dass man halt rauskommt. Und ich glaube halt auch, dass man mit den Filmen, also dass man sich selber mit den Filmen zeigt, dass die Welt veränderbar ist, aber dass man halt auch eben dem Publikum dadurch zeigt, die Welt muss so nicht sein, wie sie ist.
Film is definitely a way, a tool to process things and like to all the things that moved you kind of to bring it in another form that could be filming or whatever. And I see definitely this healing process to art also. Like, of course, each of your characters or protagonists are telling, even if you're telling a documentary about Mohammed or doing it's also about you. It's not only about Mohammed. So of course, also through your protagonists and through your stories, you are telling something about yourself or something that for you it's important to tell.
Und ich glaube, das, was einen hochhält, ist eben, wenn man organisiert ist, wenn Filme rauskommen und gut angenommen werden. Und es irgendwie zu sehen, dass das, was man kreiert hat und gemeinsam kreiert hat, dass man was gebracht hat. Ja, total, genau. Und dass es auch irgendwie aufgegangen ist, politische Kunst zu machen und die wirklich was bei den Leuten bewegt hat.
The second level is towards the subjects of your film.
So I'm wondering, do you have any like guiding values or guiding principles when you approach your work?
Ethischer Dokumentarfilm ist nicht möglich ohne Zeit und Geld. Und beides gibt es in der Filmindustrie sehr wenig oder wird auch künstlich begrenzt. Also ich glaube, selbst wenn man Filmförderung bekommt, ist die immer so krass kalkuliert, dass so Spielräume nicht so viel existieren.
I mean, documentaries are basically like on social and political issues that normally show the sufferance of other people, and through this you are getting fame and you're building your career, you know, leaving the people still behind, kind of.
You talked about the sort of like the power dynamic between the person with the camera and the person who's being filmed. Is there any like methods or things you try to do to balance this power?
Yeah, to be the most honest, to be the most open and sincere, communicating like in the best way, but also like communicating that this is not like we are not doing exactly one-to-one his life or putting in his life one-to-one, but it's going to be editing. We are going to create our arc, our emotions, our conflict, and eventually also co-writing together or co-creating together like scenes.
Dann gibt es so ein paar Regeln für so, wie man mit ProtagonistInnen umgeht, dass die wissen, auf was sie sich einlassen, wenn die einen Dokumentarfilm drehen, dass die Bedenkzeit kriegen, ob sie mitmachen möchten, dass sie auch immer wieder einchecken können über den Prozess des Films. Seid ihr immer noch dabei? Wie geht es euch damit? Einfach Gespräche führen, um quasi nachzufragen. Mir war wichtig beim letzten Dreh und ist mir auch weiterhin, dass es ein Safe Word gibt beim Dreh, wenn quasi die Kamera ausgehen soll, dass dann die Kamera auch wirklich aus ist. Weil es gibt die Dokumentarfilmer, die so sind, ich mache die Kamera aus und ich drehe weiter. Hat auch manchmal seine Vorteile, weil dann fängt man Situationen ein, die, keine Ahnung, vielleicht nicht so natürlich gestellt werden. Aber es ist quasi wichtig, dass die ProtagonistInnen, wenn die sagen, jetzt aus, dass dann auch aus ist.
Do you give them a right to review the edit, the cut?
If it is a topic where I could put potentially harm on my subject, on my protagonist, then I will give them the chance to review.
I mean, for me, for example, one of the most important is respecting the image itself. Like I never filmed the babies, dead babies. I saw a lot in my life. I had the cameras, but it was possible. I don't film dead babies, you know, because there's something when you see it in your eyes, you see like this is breaking something about our humanity that no one should see, you know. And even now, when people just share anything on social media, I feel this is disrespect us as a human being, not just the people who are actually showing their bodies without even they accepting this, and especially because I came from a war situation, so all our footage is like bloody, real bloody. And the second thing is, like as I said, this also dehumanize us as human. You can just normalize your eyes with such an image. I believe on the long term the effect is actually bad of this. And you could see it in Gaza now footage. People got used to this bloody thing, you know?
Desensitized.
Yeah.
Do you think there are things that should never be filmed? And in that case, what are ways we can still document and remember it without images? The third and final level are the ethical responsibilities towards you, the audience, but also society as a whole.
So there's this conflict between public interest on the one side and between like privacy on the other side.
Yeah.
And I think this what happens there in the Mediterranean right now. This is like history in a point. It's like, so I think it's also important from this point of view to cover it.
I also believe it's the most important thing for any society to be developed. I mean, if you don't have freedom of speech, your society doesn't develop, because then you can't actually understand what's the problems, and without understanding the problems, you can't solve problems.
Genau, und ich glaube, was man den ZuschauerInnen gegenüber für eine Verantwortung hat oder was ich möchte, was das bei den ZuschauerInnen auslöst, ist einmal, dass sie sich selber accountable halten, also dass sie aus dem Film rausgehen und nicht das Gefühl haben, das war eine Geschichte, die hat komplett nichts mit mir zu tun, sondern die Verbindung zu merken, wie die eigentlich wie wir dieselben Interessen haben. Für uns oder für mich ist es wichtig, dass Filme kollektiv geguckt werden. Also du kannst den alle, also so, ich habe auch super wichtige Filme, die für mich wichtig waren, alleine an meinem Laptop gesehen, so. Aber der Prozess ist viel schöner, wenn du die in der Gemeinschaft guckst, im Kino sitzt und danach ein Raum der Diskussion eröffnet wird und sei es nur so vom Kino zur Bahn oder so.
Ich liebe die Momente.
Genau, weil da findet eigentlich so super viel Arbeit statt, die auch dazu beiträgt, dass so das, was im Film passiert wird, verarbeitet wird und auch irgendwie Anknüpfung findet an die realen Leben der Leute. Genau. Ja.
Boah.
Gibt noch mehr.
I think this part is so important. Films need to be watched communally. So even if you didn't like this film and found my voice annoying, talk about it with your friends. Talk about these feelings of anger that I think many of us have right now. It helps. And what about truth? Documentaries are a particular blend between art and journalism. Sometimes they're investigating a factual truth. Other times they're just witnessing an event or communicating a person's emotions. But can you really trust what you're watching? Like, what do you think I, as a filmmaker, owe you in terms of authenticity and honesty? What was scripted and what occurred naturally? How do you know I didn't ask my characters to say specific things so it would fit my story and narrative? But also, does it really matter? Isn't it all a performance anyways?
Film is 24 lies per second at the service of truth. Michael Haneke. Yeah, I mean, there is definitely the whole good discussion. What is, I mean, cinema, it's a whole lie. Whatever we are talking about, documentary or about fiction, I think it's at the end all a manipulation and a lie. Or at the end, there is an editing process. In an editing process, you are deciding how to put things together and how to ensemble things together and what kind of emotion.
I mean, at the end, it's all stories, right? You're telling a story. You bring a person's story and telling it.
Yeah, truth, but still you can change and manipulate what you film in a way that you just change the whole meaning of it.
Basically, I'm also kind of much more filming just the reality without trying to manipulate the reality.
More like observational.
Yeah. Of course, in any case, in the moment that, I mean, still it's a manipulation. It's
you
still,
intervene by just being there.
Exactly, so it's in any case...
Camera is not invisible.
Yeah, not at all. And it makes something in the moment that it's in the room and that you know that what you're going to say is going to stay also.
Yeah, somebody said like as long as there are 8 million people, there are 8 billion people in the world, there are 8 billion different truths in the world. So I think this whole journalistic thing of claiming to show the truth because you're a journalist is like kind of bullshit.
I guess you said there's like facts and journalists look at the facts, but also with any fact there's like multiple point of views and perspectives to look at it.
I mean, if the journalism was like really free of political money, it would be very perfect directed journalism. I mean,
but it's not.
But it's never. It's never.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter even if it's Germany, how much Germany is like the freedom, no. When it comes to Israel, believe me, there's a political news. And then even the facts itself, it became like, we should tell this, we should tell this more, we should tell this less.
Wir hatten jetzt zum Beispiel einen Fall, wo ein Podcast aufgenommen wurde und die Person in dem Podcast hat gesagt, es ist zu beobachten, dass die Polizeigewalt ansteigt. Aber es gibt in Deutschland keine verlässlichen Zahlen dazu, ob diese Polizeigewalt tatsächlich ansteigt. Das heißt, korrektes journalistisches Arbeiten wäre, das Zitat rauszunehmen, weil man es nicht überprüfen kann und weil es quasi nicht überprüfbare Fakten sind. Und da stößt Journalismus an seine Grenzen und ich glaube, da setzt halt Dokumentarfilm ein. Und das kann, glaube ich, auch nur Dokumentarfilm an dem Punkt, weil Dokumentarfilm kann quasi die Geschichten erzählen, die gesamtgesellschaftlich nicht erzählt werden sollen.
Yeah, I think what is more important than truth is authenticity. They suggest not to focus about the truth because truth, you cannot find truth. And movies show a certain form of authenticity that people decide to believe what they see as truth, actually.
Because I don't know why we are so obsessed with this question, because I think this is one of the main, we could also watch films just without having this question, who cares if it's real or not real? The important thing is the emotions that you create or perceive, the story that you're telling.
I don't believe in truth itself. I don't believe there's such a thing called truth or absolute truth. Some people see the truth behind the facts. Something is always hidden, you have to search for it. Some people see it in the dreams, some people see it in... Me, myself, I don't believe in truth. I think there's no such a thing called truth, but it still exists as something we, since ever as a human, looking for it. We are looking for answers, for stuff to understand.
I like the distinction you made in terms of journalism tries to give answers, and then documentary and more art just tries to sort of like raise more questions and leave more space for sort of like interpretation and thoughts, and I like that.
Look, we circled all the way back to questions. So let's think again about my first question. Can documentaries really be tools for change? Or is this all happening in an echo chamber?
On a bigger level, but what can we do, at the end is still this, we go to the protest, we do documentaries, trying to tell whatever, we talk about politics in our friends and we're all aware, and
but it's also in bubbles.
But it's again,
yeah,
or you go back to take bombs and to make political assassinations and a bit to move the whole apathy of the people, but it's just back to the lotta armata. It's if you want to do the revolution and if you want to still to fight back, but capitalism, money, it's also so working so good with humans.
Do you feel hopeful for the future? Because it's not looking too great, but...
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. I don't think too much about it because then I just get depressed.
Hast du noch Hoffnung? Persönlich?
Ich habe so eine trotzige Hoffnung.
Okay.
Also ich glaube, sie ist unrealistisch. Also ich glaube, sie hat auch ihre realistischen Seiten, weil ich glaube, Klimawandel hat einfach so eine krasse Zeituhr hingesetzt, dass realistisch, wenn wir weiterleben möchten auf diesem Planeten, brauchen wir ein anderes System als den Kapitalismus.
Die dann nicht so kompliziert.
Genau, was ja eigentlich nicht so kompliziert ist. Aber ich bin eigentlich, glaube ich, ein sehr hoffnungsvoller Mensch aus der Ohnmacht heraus. Also ich glaube, es ist so der einzige Weg, den ich sehe, um weiterzumachen. Wenn wir keine Hoffnung hätten, was hätten wir dann? Ich weiß es nicht. Ja.
It needs to get way worse before it can get better. So I think like it will get way worse in the next years. Focus on people who actually do something to change things.
Pessimism of the mind, optimism of the heart. Also so zu wissen, wir erleben ja im Kleinen immer wieder, dass die Welt anders sein könnte. Und zu wissen, dass das unglaublich schwierig ist, dagegen anzukämpfen und zu sagen, ich setze mich trotzdem dafür ein. Weil die Alternative ist, dass man sich damit abfindet und in einer Realität lebt, in der man sich auch irgendwie verrät. Weil man weiß ja, dass es anders sein könnte.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for me? Like for someone who's young and like wants to do stuff with film and politics?
You just have to keep your eyes open what is like right in front of them. I think the best stories you can also find like right in front of your house door, and you don't have to travel around the world. Yeah, you just have to stay curious, I guess, and be motivated to do a lot of work for no money at all.
Und bleib dir selber treu. Wenn Leute dir sagen, das ist scheiße, was du machst, hol dir eine Meinung ein von Leuten, die die gleiche politische Meinung haben wie du, weil sonst wird man schnell verwirrt.
Yeah. And in terms of the camera stuff, any advice, any big things you learned?
I mean, I don't like the microphones.
the bad brand, it was cheap.
Yeah, I know.
Ja, also viele. Ich glaube, was mir sehr geholfen hat, ist, wenn du weiter die gute Arbeit machen möchtest, die du ja gerade machst, und die wichtige Arbeit, dann such dir die Leute um dich herum, bei denen du dich abstützen kannst, damit du das nicht alleine machen musst, sondern quasi ein Team hast von Leuten, die ähnlich denken.
I would say the most important thing to know what you really want to tell and who you want to tell and why. This is the most important thing.
Genau. Und sonst organisier dich, falls du noch nicht organisiert bist. Ja, weil dann bist du weniger alleine und kannst das durchziehen. Ja.
Danke.
Gerne.
Okay.
Ja.
Ja, das war eigentlich alles.
Dankeschön.
Also, ja, war sehr schön.
Ich hoffe, ich habe wichtige Sachen gesagt.
Nee, war super. Grazie, Ciccio.
Vielen Dank. Ey, voll. Mach die Arbeit weiter. Ja.
Vielen Dank.
Dir auch.
With the documentary, it was like more like the dream. The journey itself, it became more like it sometimes jumped over the reality. You know, what's the hero journey in this? How the people can actually develop in such a journey. You don't start in a way and end up in the same way. Always the character at the end of the movie, you realize like it's completely became different person. He learned stuff, and then when you finish this experience, you feel like you also learned stuff with the same stuff that the character learned.
Okay, this film is reaching its end, and I know that now I'm supposed to be all wise and give you insights about what I've learned, but I want you to think about it first. What new thoughts have you had while watching this film? Did it give you hope, or was I being too existential and dramatic? Do you now believe in the power of cameras? I keep asking myself, what have I learned by making this film? The film started on a very heavy note. Do I feel more hopeful now? The short answer is no, or better, I simply changed my perspective on hope. I don't think it's an emotion that we should expect ourselves to feel. Hope is a discipline. It is a verb, an action. Going to protests, filming, loving, taking care of each other. These are all actions where we embody hope. I've also been reflecting on the temporality of change. Right now, it all feels daunting and scary, but in the spirit of acting out hope, we must keep planting seeds. Ideas, projects, actions. You might plant a seed which you will never reap the fruits of yourself, but someone else will, even if many, many years down the line. And spring shall always return. And about the camera stuff, my dear, dear cameras, I think I will keep documenting and trying to tell stories, always being transparent about my position, open to learning from others, and unapologetic in my values. I thank Otto, Joanna, Milad and Roman for trusting me and for giving me more confidence to keep doing this. Thank you, Berlin, for being a fertile soil and for making me feel free on my bike. I wish for you and all of us to find communities where we organize ourselves and take care of each other, trying to build alternatives to this insanity.
Please, don't detach yourself. Let's keep questioning, living, loving. It is a long and tough road, but it's softer if we walk it together.
Una mattina mi son svegliato. Oh bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. Una mattina mi son svegliato e ho trovato l'invaso. Partigiano, portami via. Oh bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. Partigiano, portami via, che mi sento di morire. E se io muoio da partigiano, oh bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao. Se io muoio da partigiano, tu mi devi seppellire. E questo è il fiore del partigiano. Oh bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. E questo è il fiore del partigiano, morto per la libertà. E questo è il fiore del partigiano, morto per la libertà.